Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Wajahat and today we will talk about general journal entries. By the way, let me tell you, we have also recorded its introduction. Rules and regulations. Alright, for the time being, let's assume that these are very important. But believe me, there are hardly 10 to 15 entries, and once you learn them, you can make any journal entry. You won't even need anything else. Just watch this lecture, it's barely 10 minutes long. After that, decide for yourself whether making journal entries was really that difficult or if it was just made to seem so complicated that we couldn't even understand what was being taught and what wasn't being explained. So, what actually happens? So, we will write the transactions in the world of accounting. Anything that happens with the owner or the business definitely with the owner's permission is called a transaction. Now, you will see how any monetary transaction is recorded. Let's leave aside the complicated stuff and simply look at what's actually happening. For example, the first entry. Whenever a question on journal or journal entry begins, the very first thing will be the transaction itself. The very first will be the owner's name. You can choose any name you like. Let's say, for example, the owner's name is Ahmed. Ahmed invested cash into the business entity, rupees 5 lakh. Alright, so Ahmed has invested 5 lakh rupees, let's say, on any date, for example, on honest January 2017. Okay, so this was the first transaction. Ahmed invested cash into the business, rupees 5 lakh. How will this be recorded? Every entry has two aspects. You have to think of one as debit and the other as credit. So here, cash has been invested. And when an investment is made, that is, on one side you have received cash, and on the other side, the investment by the owner is called capital. So this 5 lakh becomes Ahmed's capital. We will write its entry. Cash debit, capital of Ahmed credit. So cash will be debited here. You can write January, put the first date and mention that cash has been debited, capital has been credited, and the entry is complete. There's nothing extraordinary about this. We will not write the narration. To record investment of Ahmed, this will be your narration. This is your first entry. Now, what will happen next? By the way, let me also mention here that Ahmed doesn't necessarily have to invest only cash. When the owner is starting a business, it's not necessary that he invests only cash. It's possible, it's absolutely possible that Ahmed, for example, in another transaction, let's say on the 20th of January, Ahmed thinks of investing a car. He can also invest a car. He can invest machinery as well. He can invest a car, he can invest machinery, he can invest furniture. That is, anything he is investing, anything he is bringing from his home into the business will be recorded. You will learn later on that the things belonging to the business are separate and personal items are separate. So Ahmed invested car or machinery or furniture into the business worth rupees 1,50,000. Now either he has invested a car or machinery or furniture. Let's clarify. If he invested furniture on the 2nd of January, then you would say furniture debit, capital credit. That is, here it has been explained that it is not necessary for the investment to be made in the form of cash. It can also be in the form of furniture. It can also be in the form of a car. If a car had been invested, then car debit, capital credit would have been the entry. I hope this point is now clear to you. Now, when we start a business, there are generally two ways it can be. Either your business is based on goods, that is, in other words, either your business is based on goods, or for example, any business, it will either be based on goods or merchandise. Sorry, it will be either goods or services. Goods means merchandise, and as for services, whether it's tutoring, teaching, a hospital, or an airline, so either they are offering services or they are offering merchandise goods. So, anyway, now let's assume that we are about to make an entry. If you want to sell any goods, you have to buy them first before you can sell them, right? Either you manufacture the goods and sell them, or you buy the goods and then sell them. They're not just going to appear out of thin air. So, if we talk about purchasing here, then we would say this: purchase merchandise worth rupees 7,000 in cash. Now, there could be one of two things: either the merchandise that was purchased was bought in cash, or alternatively, it could be that merchandise worth rupees 8,000 was purchased on credit, perhaps. Alright, let's separate the figures. So, either the merchandise will be bought in cash or on credit. There can't be any other possibility. So, for example, if we say that on the 5th of January, the merchandise we purchased was bought in cash. So, in both cases, whether you buy in cash or on credit, the purchases have been made. So, the goods that are acquired with the intention to sell are called purchases in the world of accounting. Now, if it was bought in cash, then cash gets credited. That means we have written 7,000 cash here. Now, if we assume that on 6th January, the purchases we made, the goods we bought with the intention to sell goods, that we buy with the intention to sell, are called purchases. So, what happens if we buy those same goods on credit? Purchases will always be debited, whether we buy with cash or on credit. Purchases must be debited. Who should be credited? It is also written as account payable. In some places, you will see it written as creditor. Creditor will either say purchases. Purchases must always be debited. It can be accounts payable. So, you have debited purchases by 8,000. Now, it can be written as account payable or as creditor. That is up to you. So, in the business world, we have explained that goods are either bought in cash or on credit. Goods purchased for cash will have purchases debited and cash credited, and goods bought on credit will have purchases debited and accounts payable or creditor credited. You can see that we keep writing a little ahead each time, starting from here. So whatever credit there is, it comes from a little ahead. Clear? So we've only explained this point here. We won't repeat this point again later. The narration is very simple. If we've made a purchase in cash, then what will we write? Purchase goods on cash. You just have to write a short narration. It's not a big deal at all. Now, just by looking here, you can tell that to record purchases on credit, we'll write that. That's it. This becomes another entry for you. Now, let us move ahead and let us talk about the fact that definitely when we buy goods with the intention of selling them, then we will sell it also. If we have bought goods with the intention to sell, then definitely they will be sold as well. Now, what will happen in the case of selling? The same thing as before? Yes. It will be written as we sold. The transaction will be mentioned. Either it will say we sold or sales of goods worth rupees 15,000 on cash. So in this case, we can either say that we sold goods, or we can specifically mention sales of goods worth rupees 15,000 in cash, which clearly indicates the amount and the mode of payment. Alternatively, it could be stated as we sold merchandise for 9,000 on credit, which highlights both the value and the fact that the transaction was not in cash but on credit. So it will either be sold for cash or sold on credit. There can only be these two ways of selling. There can't be any third way. Either you will sell on credit or you will sell for cash. So what will happen now? Now, if we say that we have made a sale, let's say that we made sales on the 11th of January. In both cases, in both situations, a sale has taken place. Whether it was for cash or on credit, a sale has occurred. Now, if we made the sale for cash, we will receive cash in return for the goods sold. If you sell goods, you will definitely receive cash. Cash is our asset. When an asset is received, our cash increases. When an asset increases, it is debited. Cash is debited, sales are credited with 15,000. So, in the case of a cash sale, cash is debited and sales are credited. And if we sold on credit, then the same thing applies, sales will still be credited. The amount for which we took the goods, it could have been any amount. But still, I am checking so that you don't get confused. Your sales will be credited with 9,000. Now, what will be debited? Accounts receivable. Accounts receivable will be debited. For example, on the 12th of January, the goods we sold her, we sold for cash, and here we sold on credit. In both cases, you can see that sales have been credited. When we sold for cash, cash increased. So cash was debited. Accounts receivable is our asset. The money that we have to receive from people when we sell goods to them on credit is called accounts receivable. In some places, you will see that instead of accounts receivable, we may also refer to it as debtor. We debit AR and sales, that is, it could also be that accounts receivable is debited and sales is credited, or debtor, DEB. Some people read it as daughter. In this, the B is silent, it's pronounced Debtor. DEBTOR, debtor 9,000, and sales will be credited with 9,000. So, what I mean to say is, first we made an investment, then we bought goods either. We bought the goods on credit, meaning here, either we bought the goods for cash or on credit. There are only two possibilities. The same applies to selling the goods. Again, there are only two possibilities. Either we sell them for cash or we sell them on credit. This is possible. Now let's move forward. When you are running a business, you will definitely incur some expenses as well. You will have some expenses, and whenever you pay for those expenses, you will pay in cash. Alright? Or rather, first we try that we have expenses like rent, electricity, mobile and traveling. Any expense that we have paid, any expense at all that we have paid, first we record it and then we make its entry. Here, for example, let us explain this. Page. Try it. Electricity bill of rupees 5,000. It could be that we paid an electricity bill of 5,000. Paid rent for the month 12,000. We may have paid rent. We may have paid the electricity bill. Or we may have paid for travelling expenses. Travelling expense paid of rupees 150. Whatever expense we have paid, in all three cases, whether it was the electricity bill, the rent expense or the traveling expense. In all three cases, the payment in this world is always made in the form of cash. Cash is our asset. When we pay cash, the cash decreases. In all three cases, cash must be credited. What should be debited? In the first condition, electricity expense should be debited and cash should be credited. Let's prepare it together. Alright, fine. So now, if we say that our first entry was on 17 January, electricity expense debit and cash credit. So we will pay the electricity expense. The electricity expense will be debited and cash will be credited. We said the electricity expense was for 5,000. So we credited it with 5,000. In the second case, we paid the rent. In the second case, on the 19th of January, we paid the rent. So rent expense debit, cash credit. For any expense, without overthinking, you will debit that rent expense, electricity expense, telephone expense, salary expense or wages expense by name. If it was paid in cash, then cash will be credited, and if you paid by check, then bank will be credited. If you issued a check, then instead of cash we will write bank. Now it was a rent expense, so it will be 12,000. In the last case, we have a travel expense, for example on 21st January. So traveling expense debit and cash credit 150. If instead of cash we had given a check, then we would have written bank. What would we have written? Instead of cash, we would have written bank. These were our entries. And before finishing, let me tell you one more small thing. When we are doing business, we are purchasing certain things. When we are doing business, we are purchasing some things for office use, right? So, if those are not expenses, let's now talk about when we are buying assets, what will their entries be? For example, if we say that we have purchased office equipment such as desks and chairs worth rupees 20,000, alright? So now we have purchased this office equipment for our workplace. That is our asset. When we purchase an asset, the asset comes into our business. So it definitely increases. So we debited. So purchased office equipment worth rupees 20,000. Now look at this. We will mention here that the 20,000, as we said earlier, is paid by check. Now let's talk about the check part. If it had been done in cash, we would have said office equipment debit and cash credit. But here, since a check has been given, what will the entry be? The entry will be office equipment 20,000, and here we have bank. So this is debit and this is credit. Office equipment 20,000 and the bank is credited by 20,000. Is that clear? If we had taken it in cash, then instead of bank, cash would have been entered. Similarly, if instead of office equipment we had purchased a van, then van would be debited and bank would be credited. For example, if instead of a van you had purchased a building, you debit building and credit bank. So it could have been office equipment, it could have been a building, it could have been a photocopy machine, whatever you think of, any asset you consider, you would debit that asset here. And if you are paid by check from the bank, usually large payments are made through check, so your bank will be credited. Alright, we've recorded 19 minutes now. We also have to upload this, so we'll stop here for now. And definitely, if you have any questions about this in the next part, your question will be answered 100%. By the way, try to start memorizing these entries as you make them. You'll start understanding these things very easily. So first we memorize the concepts, then make the entries, and then memorize the entry. But it's even better to make them as you go. Keep asking questions and keep making entries. Thank you very much for watching our video. Thank you so much